Okay, welcome back to the shop, everyone. Welcome back to the two-stroke turbo channel. Sorry, the shop is in a bit of a disarray here as I'm going through some organizational improvements. And speaking of organizational improvements, if you follow this channel, you will know that I don't always work on two-stroke cars. In fact, I'm trying to think of the last time I worked on a two-stroke car. It's been a little while. I probably should post a video on a two-stroke car soon, and I think I've got an idea. Today, though, however, this video will focus mostly on this vehicle right here. This is a 1951 or 52 Jeep Willys Wagoneer, station wagon, I don't know, something old. This car has been with me a couple times. It's one owner, now in the son's care. Dad bought it new. It was 6-volt positive. It is now 12-volt negative. The car had an engine fire and we're rewiring it. And we've gone through a few things in the last couple episodes, if you followed along. One is we converted the battery. The coil is now 12 volt, new points, condenser, and distributor cap. And if you look way down in there, there's a new starter, and on the starter on the top there is a solenoid. You can see it's got a lever. It's a floor actuated starter. He really wanted to keep that. He wants to keep everything as original as possible, like no extra gauges, no fancy lights, nothing. But we are converting it to a 100 amp alternator. The last episode, I think I got the bracketry in right. The belt lines up right. It's one of those deep V industrial belts. Pretty tough old girl. I believe this is a 2.2 liter 4-stroke engine. It's an L-head design. If I'm not mistaken, the intake valves are in the block, and the exhaust valves are in the head. So it's kind of a hurricane engine, I believe is what they call it. It's a funky design. I don't know, 60 horsepower, maybe 2.2 liter, 70 horsepower. I don't know, not much, but very sturdy. It seems to run fine, except that it won't take throttle. And so I've had it running. I put on some Honda Accord spark plug wires that I had laying around that were used, replaced the ones that got burnt. But there's a couple things about this carburetor. It's an old Carter, one barrel. The accelerator pump does not work. When you pump the gas, let me turn my heater off. It is very cold in the shop today. There is no accelerator pump, so it's hard to get it started. I have to shoot it with starting fluid or crank it with the choke on for a long time. So I'm going to address that today. The customer sent me a carburetor kit, and if you see in there, there's the leather bound or leather plunger for the accelerator pump, and that's what I believe I need. So I'm hoping this is the right kit. The other thing that bothers me, and I don't know what I can do about this. Oh, there is Stella the shop dog trying to stay warm on a cold December day here in Portland, Oregon. Inside the cabin of our old Willys, we have, of course, our clutch, brake, and gas pedal. And they're all manual. Of course, there's nothing power about this. But what bothers me about this is there's no, like, this is idle, and that's like full throttle. And there's nothing in between. It's just a switch. There's just not a the accelerator pedal itself is just, I'd like to bring the pedal back to here, but if that's the case, then it's going to interfere with the brake. I mean, the brake pedal has this huge, you can't miss it, I guess, jamming on the brakes, but I can't get the gas and the brake pedal too close together, and I don't know how to change that because that's fixed. The hinge for the gas pedal is fixed there. I think I just want to make a new rod. I can make it an all thread, bring the pedal back to here. So there's actually some modulation. I can't get anything. It just feels like you can't drive the thing because you can't manipulate the gas pedal like a normal car. And I think that's a problem. That really bothers me. So it's all mechanical. I'll show you the linkage that runs through the through the firewall. I tried working with it a little bit. It goes down to this rod right here. This is your gas pedal when you push it, which then goes through a cross shaft and then over the back, and it pulls on the throttle. It's what it is. It's old, but I've got to figure out a way to lengthen that rod or make that better. It's just hard to drive. So those two things I'm going to focus on today, and then we're going to get serious about rewiring the car. He brought a wiring kit in. It's a universal one. It is not specific to this Jeep, but we're going to have a fuse panel, some turn signals, which it's never had, a real ignition switch, you know, safety wire with fuses and fusible links, and then, you know, ways to run accessories. So I do have the alternator on there already. I think I showed you that, and I have the wiring diagram for that. I have the carburetor rebuild kit. We did the brakes about a year or two ago, so those are done. It's got new tires on it, but we got a lot of work ahead of us. And so today, I think the first thing I'm going to do is take the carburetor apart, see if I can get the accelerator pump working, and then figure out the throttle linkage, and then we're going to go from there. Right now, it does yard, run, and drive, but nothing else. No lights, no blinkers, you know, that type of thing. So, okay. I think you'll dig this video. Hang tight as we go along. I'll post some updates, and let's just see where this goes. It's a cool truck. Super duper shop dog Stella. I want to say hi to everyone. Loves to have her head scratched, and she's going to sniff the throttle rod. So this is the mechanical rod that goes from the gas pedal to the linkage there. I'm going to try to straighten this thing out, because I think if I get some more length just on the stock rod, I think it's been bent over the years because the throttle was probably stuck and this thing got tweaked. I'm going to put it in the vise and straighten it up and see if I can make the throttle manipulation or just modulation so much better. It's got to be better. So let's see if we can do something with this. Well, are you going to help me bend the throttle rod? So I got it in the vise, and I'm just kind of seeing if I can straighten it up a little bit, see if that'll help. Okay, so first order of business, working on the throttle rod, the throttle actuation rod. I think I got something, but this is the worst design thing I think I've ever seen. If you look at the placement of the brake pedal versus the gas pedal, like if you're on the brakes and you want to switch to the gas, you got to put your boot around and underneath the brake pedal. So if you're driving along and you need to slam on the brakes, you got to actually unhook, because your toe is actually under the brake pedal, like come up and around. You can't just like switch over easily. And I don't see a way around that, because this pedal pad is fixed. You can't rotate that. It's all mechanical, and at least I got some action now on the pedal, the gas pedal. So if I bring that pedal, the gas pedal, back up any further, if I lengthen that rod, it's going to be right up against the back of this. So you'd press the brake and you might press the gas at the same time. It's just a terrible design. This should be moved over, or this should be moved over. I'm conflicted, but I think I've got something now. I can actually move the gas pedal at least what feels like, you know, I can manipulate the throttle. I really concentrate on it, and it's not too hard to push. It's not getting bound up. So I think that's a win. Brakes are nice and firm. Gas pedal is staying in there. I've got to put the final pins in, but I think I got it bent just the way I want it, which is kind of nuts. And I use my big channel locks to get the perfect alignment on that. I think it's going to be good. Crazy. Now we're going to move on to the Carter. I think this is a YF Carter carburetor, and when you press on the throttle pedal, you move this lever right here. I'm working with my hand, and if you look down into the throttle there, dry as a bone, watch, I'm going to move this lever. No pump action at all. Dry, dry, dry. So I think I might just pop the cover off. I probably should just pull the whole thing. Might just pop the cover off and see what the float level's like and see how full of garbage it is, and we'll go from there. So I've got to undo the manual choke, I've got to undo the fuel source, and pop the top off. I think I can do that. So let's get working on that. So I was just getting ready to take the carburetor apart, and I opened up the carburetor rebuild kit. And of course it's a classic carburetor kit. Shows me how to set the float. But if I'm looking at the picture correctly, the air horn is separate from the main body, and that is not the same carburetor I have. It's sort of close, and I think these things are all sort of similar. It has a highlighted box here, but I don't think it's a carburetor WA1. Maybe it is. Just doesn't look right. So I'm going to pop the top nonetheless, and hopefully we have the right parts. That's always something. Okay, so we got the top off of our carburetor. It's not that bad. I mean, I've seen worse in there. This is our accelerator pump right here. Seems like it's doing something. The carburetor kit that the customer supplied is not the right one. This one's got a round shaft on it, and the one in the kit has got a flat spade type. I suspected that might be the problem. So I'm going to take this apart and see if I can fix what we got without using the carb kit. Maybe we can take the carb kit back. But I'm trying to get some accelerator pump squirtage, and we don't have any of that. The float level looks okay. All right, let's get to work. Okay, so the carburetor is now in my hand. Whenever I move the lever, there should be an accelerator pump that shoots a little bit of gas out that little hole right there. This is an old Carter YF. Now I can see the label on the side. It's what I thought, but it's not doing what it should be doing. I don't want to throw this carburetor away. This vehicle really needs an accelerator pump, and well, I'm going to have to just take it apart and clean it, see if this plunger is working like it should. One of these is an enrichment needle and one is a plunger. I'm not sure. I think this is the accelerator pump plunger, and that's the enrichment needle there. So I'm going to take this to the bench, take it apart, clean it, see if I can figure out if the diaphragm's torn or what's going on. Okay, I found an old oven tray here, turkey basting tray that we haven't used in a while. That's good to contain all my parts. And then I have a old oil quart that I have cut in half. I'm going to pour all the gas in there because I'm going to reuse this as fluid to test my accelerator pump if I think I get it working. So we'll let that drain there, and now I can break this down, and I've got a nice pan to secure all my little parts. So sure enough, I figured out what's going on here. My plunger is actually in pretty good shape. The accelerator pump webbing, or the round material, is not torn. Looks fairly new, actually, a couple years old. I don't know. It's not that much of a use. Anyhow, the way the accelerator pump works is, I believe it either pulls or sucks in through here, and it pushes down through that little, see if I can find a pointer, this little hole right here, which was plugged. And it was plugged, you can follow the passageway on the outside of the carburetor up and around and out, and it shoots out this little hole right there. And I used my air nipple on my gun, and I blew through the hole, and of course it was completely plugged until something popped out of here. So my check ball has gone off into the abyss of the shop. I do have the retainer here. I'm going to put a new check ball in there. It was just seized, and that should get our accelerator pump working again. I cleaned out the bowl. I checked the main circuit. The jet I have unclogged or blew out, but this was completely gummed up. The check ball for the accelerator pump was seized or stuck, and I could not get any fluid to shoot out. So I'm hoping that fixed it. Let's put it back together. We'll reuse our old fluid there, which looks terrible. Maybe I'll get some new gas and do a couple test runs here, see if we can get this thing to squirt. Okay, I want to show you what I did here. Is I went to my carburetor rebuild department, and I found some shot. These are just BBs that I have, assorted BBs. You can see they're all brass or chrome ones in there. And I found ones that will fit and make a weight for my accelerator pump check ball. Since I lost mine, it went flying off in the shop. I put 2 of the brass balls down in there, or the bronze balls for weight, and I put the little circlip back in there. You can also use any type of shot, really, anything for weight, but you want it to kind of seal up because that's how an accelerator pump works. It'll siphon back if you don't put something in there. And the next thing I did is cleaned up the brass step, what do you call this, rod, I guess. If you look, it's got 3 steps to it. It was all gunky and dirty. I just took some 3M pad and I polished that. And that will give us our 3 stages of enrichment down in the main jet when we put that back in there. So let's put it back together. I think I'm going to get some clean gas. This doesn't look good at all. And we're going to do a little test here, a bench test, to see if our accelerator pump has been revived. I think it will be. We put a little fresh gas into our carburetor. Too much fresh gas, as a matter of fact. Now we're going to try and see if we got this thing so that it'll squirt a little bit. Okay. So it's working. We should see some fluid. The way it works is when you crack the throttle, it releases the plunger, which should suck in a little bit of fluid and pump it up through this channel, through this little hole, and then out the squirter. I'm not seeing that happen. Oh, I felt it kind of prime a little bit. There it goes. See the fluid coming up in the hole now? It's not coming out the hole, in the bore yet though. Okay, so we know we've got fluid coming up to here. We just got to make sure it comes out there. It's not doing. Wonder if I have the wrong weight in there. Should be shooting down the wall. Should be coming out this little hole right there and down the... It's not doing it. Okay, I'm going to play around. I'm going to see if I can fix that. Okay, so after playing around with this YF Carter, it has the weakest accelerator pump I've ever seen, but I think I've got an issue. I can see it coming up the little hole where the weight is. If I press down on the plunger, it's losing all its pressure out the side of the diaphragm. I think my diaphragm might not be as good as I thought. It starts to fill up this well, which then goes over and is supposed to shoot out a little raw gas out that hole, but it takes like 30 pumps to get like a little tiny bit, and that is not acceptable. All right, so we're still working on our old carburetor here. I took the plunger out again, cleaned it, took a razor blade, cleaned off all the mating surfaces because the pressure of the accelerator pump is just blowing out the side. It's not coming up where the ball bearing is. It did one time, the first time, shot the ball bearing almost in my eye, and it was like, oh, I fixed it, I worked it. But the second time, it started blowing out the side. So I've got to order a plunger for this thing, or a new carburetor. I'd rather just order a plunger for it, but it's going to be a 3 or 4 day deal. So we're going to have to end this video here. The poor Willys is going to have to sit in the nice warm shop over the weekend until I can pick up the part. And you guys are going to have to come back for part 2, see what happens here. How are we going to get this thing running? Are we going to get it running? Is it going to blow up? We don't know. Anything can happen. You just never know. So thanks for watching. Thanks for cheering me on. I can feel your support, and we'll get this thing going sometime. Right now it's just got a hole there where the carburetor needs to go. We'll see ya.